following that
Yeah.
sort of
Starting
template.
And I'm easily confused.
We had gone to the Messi game. We went to a soccer game. Michael did not go because he wanted to watch the Masters, but he was keeping us surprised. Was Ken watching?
He was, yeah, I wasn't home, but he
Yeah, it was
was very excited.
Was he? Yeah, I guess the people are excited.
Yeah.
It sounded exciting.
I watched a little bit of it. I was at my dad was still at the hospital,
Oh,
but I was
I'm
waiting for
sorry.
him to get discharged.
Lights
Oh.
on, but we had,
I was watching it, and I was like, Dad, you gotta put this on. Like, I was watching it on my
Oh.
phone, like, Dad, you gotta put this on. And so
Oh,
it was
well,
like,
that gave you something to do while you were waiting to get discharged.
So I'll delete it.
Yes.
Really something.
I
I mean,
read an
trustee
article, I read a headline that like CBS let it be quiet for like 5
It
minutes.
was really.
Wow.
Nervous. I saw the parking lot
Yeah,
pull
it's
out there.
funny.
I'm like, oh.
You know, I don't watch.
I know.
I don't know where everyone's at. Maybe he'll
They
be.
must be a number or something.
I guess Little League started that. Parks are jammed.
Oh, is it really?
Coming over here, yeah.
I'm so glad we're out.
Felt like the middle of summer coming over here.
So glad we're done.
First glimpse of sunshine,
Yeah.
right? Everybody.
Yeah, the whole world's
Hits the
outside.
green
today.
space.
Okay.
It's a surprise.
Okay. Are your parents still at their home?
They are. Yeah. But it's because of a rotating
Hello,
number
sir.
of us
Of
children
course.
taking care of.
Howdy.
Good.
We have, my sister actually has left her job, and she's gonna be their primary caretaker.
Oh.
That's selfless.
Yeah, she's
Hello.
great. She doesn't have kids, so.
Trustee Terrell, how are you?
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's her fourth.
Are you counting down yet?
Short
Are
timer?
you counting down the
Yeah,
meetings yet?
so. we just
Don't remind us.
Sadly, I am.
But now that's.
I'm sure there's a committee that she's calling for you.
So, that's a little harder.
Find one.
Yeah.
I would enjoy that.
Yes, she actually gave me a cheat sheet. Thanks, but
Very nice.
too much, too much.
I needed the other.
You're like, hang on, let me,
Yeah,
gonna go up on
right,
here.
right.
How fast this goes.
Jealous of me again.
Still on there, I think.
Okay. Do you want any of the details for this? This will just be whatever they display. Okay. One more minute. Everybody's so quiet.
Edge of their seats.
Wait, the iPad switch, there it goes, 7 o'clock. All right. All right. Good evening. Welcome to the April 14th, 2025 meeting of the Village of Western Springs Village Board of Trustees. To honor our nation's heroes and especially to honor the individuals who serve and protect our community, please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk Timick, may we have the roll call, please?
Yes, President Rudolph. Trustee Vaking.
Here.
Trustee Chen.
Here.
Trustee Fink.
Here.
Trustee Lewis.
Here.
Trustee Naraki.
Here.
Trustee Terrell.
Here.
All present?
Thank you very much. Moving to the first item on our agenda, the citizen comments. Do we have any this evening? Would you like to come up to the podium, please? If you can just state your name, that would be great.
Chuck Bosco, BOSKO, commander of VFW. Microphone?
Oh, sorry.
It's on.
Are you sure? Okay. Don't give me a microphone.
We'll
We'll repeat. Chuck Bosco, BOSKO, current commander of VFW Post 10778. We meet at Grace Lutheran on Wolf Road. Thank you, Madam President, trustees. Just to let you know what's going on, there may have been a rumor that maybe some people have heard, a little story, but people thought the post was going to go by the wayside. It's good to know that younger veterans, and I use that term, younger than me, are beginning to attend meetings, and I think they're going to be very instrumental and very involved in the post to move it forward. This all has to circle around the event of the Memorial Day Parade, which is a tradition in Western Springs, and much thanks to the police and fire department for supporting us. They're going to be involved, and they could have heard that if the post went away, there'd be no more parade. Well, that's been squashed, and that's quenched. And I'd like to thank the trustees and the village for supporting the parade every year. And of course, we depend on the sponsorship that helps it come about. And I just wanted to come personally and thank you, and thank the village, and thank the trustees for supporting the parade as every year. It's been tremendous. And the Grand Marshal, I'm not sure if anybody knows him, but his name is Thomas Santoro. He got involved, one of the things, he was an Army Vietnam veteran, and he became in going around to high schools back in 1996, talking about teen domestic violence. I don't know how many people remember the name of Lisa Santoro. She was a graduate of Nazareth High School in '95, and her boyfriend killed her in a dispute. And they took that sorrow and they turned it into something positive over the years. And I've known Tom for many, many years. He's going to be a tremendous Grand Marshal. So with that said, I want to thank again the board for the opportunity to be before you, and thank you all very much. Any questions?
Thanks very much for joining us.
Can I take this home with me now?
You can drop it.
Thank you.
And thank you and the members of the Post, and thank you for your service.
I hope you're there with the remainder of the week, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, do we have anyone else who would like to use that microphone?
Thank you for doing with the veterans, so the Pledge of Allegiance. That was very nice. Thank you.
All right. If no further comments, we'll move on. The next item on our agenda is regarding commissioner appointments and reappointments. And those that I'm about to read, these will be on our April 28th, 2025 omnibus for consideration. We have first the reappointment of Ryan DeProsperous to the Plan Commission for a 3-year term. The reappointment of Tim Holowazinski to the Economic Development Commission for a 3-year term. The reappointment of Mark Mitchell to the Economic Development Commission for a 3-year term. The reappointment of Jordan Myers to the Liquor Control Commission for a 3-year term. New appointment of Caleb Copeland to the Economic Development Commission for a 3-year term. And new appointment of Robert Burker to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a 5-year term. Again, these appointments and reappointments will be on the April 28th, 2025 omnibus for consideration. Now we will move to the committee reports, and we'll begin with General Government Committee report, please. Trustee Terrell.
Thank you, Madam President. I only have one issue that we've previously discussed. Our General Government Committee, we reviewed at our meeting on April 9th the recommendation, and we're recommending the Village Board consider a recommendation to approve and authorize an amendment to the employee leasing agreement between the Village of Western Springs and MGT Impact Solutions to retain the full services of a part-time recreation consultant. You might recall that MGT Impact Solutions provides human resources to the village. We've had them for several years. They've been very, very helpful. They are asking, they have forwarded a name of Nancy A. Flores to do special event and recreation consulting that will include special projects, special event management, and other administration assistance. We thought it was very favorable of that. Our committee did, and I'd be putting that later on the board for full consideration tonight. That's all I would have.
Okay. Any questions? All right, very good, thank you. Next up will be the Finance Committee report. Trustee Chen?
Yes, thank you. The first item is a budget amendment. It's for engineering services, the HR Green Design Engineering for the Woodland Avenue project. The Finance Committee reviewed this item at our meeting on April 7th, and we recommend approval of the budget amendment in the roadway construction fund in the amount of $19,500. You'll hear more about this project, I believe, from the report from Public Works and Water. But we are favorable to this and hopeful that this project can get underway. So that's that. And then the second item is the bond sale ordinance for stormwater system, and I'm actually going to turn it over to Director Mastodona.
Yes, thank you, Trustee Chen. Today we are anticipating finalizing a bond sale, our first issuance of the stormwater bonds, which are the alternate revenue bonds. Due to market volatility and working with our bond counsel and financial advisors, it was recommended to postpone the sale. That was supposed to occur today. That was due to, we saw interest rates in the bond market go up about 1% between April 4th and April 10th to the market volatility. Right now it's starting to kind of creep back down a little bit, but we're still about 0.5% higher than we were 14 days ago. So instead we are proposing an ordinance that allows us to schedule the bond sale to happen on a day that is not a board meeting. So as long as the bonds stay under the parameters that are in the ordinance, which is under $6 million and a 5.5% interest rate, we could work with our bond counsel and financial advisors to bring that to the market and execute the sale. Also part of that ordinance is to be able to reimburse ourselves for any funds for that project that we may incur before the bonds are sold. That is kind of more of an IRS guideline for the tax exemption. So that is where we could still approve the project tonight, move forward with some fund balance, some reserves that we have in the fund balance. But then when we do actually do the bond sale, we could pay ourselves back. And this is all out of the stormwater utility fee.
What are the current interest rates? You're saying 5%. 5.5 is where we would stay? What are
So
they?
right now, we'd be looking today between 4.5% and 5%
Okay.
interest rate. It's kind of also an estimate. We haven't seen any bond sales in the state of Illinois since April 4th. Everybody's kind of postponed. There's been some large cities that still went forward with some that had to. New York City was one that I was reading an article on. But essentially, most of the nation, everybody has paused bond sales until it settles, one way or another. That increase that we saw, about roughly 100 points, the 1%, was the worst day in the bond market for 31 years. So it's just new territory for everybody, and just kind of the bond market, just how it reacts to the volatility of the stock market is just a little bit different. So when we did see the stock market rebound a little bit, some of those days when it was paused, the bond market didn't really reflect any of that. So it's just a little bit slower as people are kind of feeling out what's going on.
So this will give you the opportunity to act then on a day that you and council see fit?
It would be about 3 or 4 days because they still have to put it out to market.
Okay.
But they're just unsure if we would receive any bids or how many bids, and that's kind of what drives up the cost.
Okay.
Do you lock in for the rate? If you put out that bid, you lock in at that rate, and then the market goes haywire again those next 3 days, you get the price that you set it at? The interest rate?
Not till the bond sale happens that it's actually locked in. So it could go out to market and the sale could still not happen if
Okay.
it doesn't meet those parameters. It just allows us to kind of target the market a little bit on a quicker notice and not be dependent on a board meeting date.
You don't have to spend more money on interest too.
Correct, yeah, and the 0.5%, it was almost 800,000 to $1 million over the life
Oh,
of
really?
of the bonds.
And it's gone up 1% in 11 days?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we saw the 1%, I think it was like a 2-day span.
days, yeah.
And
Oh,
now
2
it's
days.
kind of starting to creep back down, but it's still about 0.5% higher.
In the past, have we always sold on a board meeting day? I mean, this seems like a smart policy to have some flexibility.
Yeah, past practice has always been the
Okay.
bids happen, and then by the time the board meeting
Okay.
occurs, we have finalized numbers
I
to
see.
approve. There's really no reason not to do that. It's just
Yeah.
in the past, we've always
Okay.
done it that way.
And maybe the bond, it was more stable, like you weren't looking at this type of situation?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
very.
Okay. So, I don't know if we need to do action today, but that's,
We do, it's on the agenda for later tonight. There's
Okay.
a supermajority vote. We need to have all the trustees and the mayor vote on this tonight. There needs to be a concurrence, a majority of the full board in favor of this to pass.
okay. Thank you. Yes. So that will be later for the board to vote on. That's that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay, moving on to the Planning and Zoning Committee report, Trustee Norwood.
I have one item on our agenda for tonight, and that is the PC-2024-02 McNaughton Development, LLC, 5600 Wolf Road, Heritage Crossing, major amendment to a planned development. Director Valone, would you like to take it from here?
Absolutely. I am going to direct you to your screen, so if you have your iPads up on the dais or to either screen as soon as it loads. There we go. So as many of you remember, on February 10th of this year, the village board approved a plan development along with other zoning entitlement and relief for the property at 5600 Wolf. It was entitled for a 29-unit townhome development to be constructed by McNaughton Development LLC. Representatives for the developer are here, as well as myself and Director Koza to answer any questions you have tonight. So on your screens now, you should see an excerpt of the engineering plans that were submitted to the village. As part of the approval for the plan development, there were several conditions that were included. One of those conditions, several of those conditions were related to engineering. So in an effort to meet those conditions, the applicant has brought back a set of plans to address that condition and then also address some comments that were received from the Cook County Department of Transportation and Highways. So again, on your screens, you should see an excerpt of the engineering plans. I'm going to give a brief overview of the changes, and then Director Kozo can give you a more detailed version. But essentially, as you see on the screen, along the backs of units 1 through 7, there is an underground culvert that runs over into the detention facility. So previously, the pipe that was proposed here was an 8-foot diameter pipe. They're proposing to increase that by 2 feet to 10 feet to address the conditions of the village, which is to slow the water that's coming through the pipe. The second change that they have brought to the village is a change required by Cook County Department of Transportation and Highway. As you can see over here, adjacent to Wolf Road, they've made some tweaks to the drainage structure that is located there. Generally, it is composed of the same materials, but the design of it has shifted a bit. And I'll let Director Koza go through in more detail.
So as Director Vaughn mentioned, the size of the culvert has increased. However, this was in response to a condition we had on our approval, requesting slowing of the water flowing through the pipe when it's flowing full condition to prevent erosion, not necessarily, or not related to flooding itself, but more functionality of the pipe at the downstream end where it comes out to make sure that we don't have any erosion occurring because the water is coming out too fast. So they were able to, they weren't able to get that done with the size of the pipe that was in the original approval. So in compliance with our ordinance, we brought forth this change. And this was also reviewed by our stormwater consultant, and they're comfortable with the changes. They don't believe there's any negative impact. In fact, the positive impact will be, we feel like the slower velocity will lead to better performance and lack the erosion issue that may have occurred before is hopefully not as likely. So, so yeah, those are essentially the rationale for why this change was made.
So the development control ordinance has 3 categories of approvals to plan developments after they've been approved. The first is administrative changes, which could be approved by the Director of Community Development with a limited list of things that could be approved through the permitting process. The second is considered minor changes, which again has a limited list of things that can be approved, but does have to be approved by village board, and it specifically excludes changes to drainage. Major amendment is the last category that generally is any other changes to the plans, which again needs review and approval by the village board. As minor changes are explicitly removed from minor approvals, this is considered a major approval, although it has the same general approval process as a minor change. So generally, the ordinance that you have in front of you would address the changes that they've brought in these plans. I would also allow for any future changes that are at the request of any of our regional governance agencies, such as Cook County Department of Transportation and Highways, the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago, or other permitting government agencies that Director Koza would review and ensure it has positive impact on drainage, and then could approve administratively. So again, if there are other changes that are along these lines that have positive impacts on the drainage, this would not need to be brought back. But again, it would be only for these outside government agencies that also are issuing a permit to the developer. So the ordinance that you have is also under old business if you do choose to act on it tonight. Are there any questions for myself or Director Koza?
So it's just to increase the drainage, to allow the water to flow more thoroughly from the east side and out to the west side. You need a bigger pipe so the water doesn't build up.
Bigger pipe to reduce the velocity of the water when it's flowing full in a flood condition, so that there is less of a chance of erosion as the downstream end.
Doesn't destroy things as it's rushing
Right.
out.
And then,
Would this be for just these 100-year rains? I mean, a 10-foot pipe?
Yeah, with the flood conditions, we're going to see the pipe flowing full, so that'll be the most likely location where the velocity concern would creep up.
I know you've discussed at length that because the water does run from the highlands, and this would be a way to prevent it from pouring out to...
Well, it's not necessarily more of a flow constraint. The water coming into the site is constrained by the Wolf Road culvert, which is under the county jurisdiction, and we're not proposing any changes in size of that. There's a inlet control system on the east side of the street, which controls the amount of water coming into the system. That's not changing. So it's really just how the water is managed on site and erosion control. Erosion concern, not a reduction of flooding or more flooding concern. It's an erosion control issue.
Okay.
Was there also 1.2 with the fact that then if I read this right, the opening is bigger, so it's likely to maybe prevent like any kind of buildup of debris that could prevent it from flowing because it's a little bigger?
Yeah, I mean, the bigger the opening, the less chance of a clog. I would agree with that statement.
Okay.
Does the bigger opening allow more water to go into the detention basins at a faster rate, or is this still slowing that?
No,
pace
so that
down?
was one of the key things that we wanted to look at before we approved it, just to make sure that wasn't the case. And our stormwater consultant feels comfortable that the change has no negligible, if any, impact on the flow of water into the site.
And if we do the approvals and allow you, Director Koza, to do these approvals, does the board still get to know like some of those changes that are coming out? Like if MWRD comes back and says X, Y, Z has to happen, does the board get informed of this, and the residents around that area that are obviously, interested in this topic?
Yeah,
Or
I guess I
how does
don't
that
know
work?
the specifics on the legal side of it, but I can tell you that obviously if there is a substantial change to the plan as a result of the permitting process, I think we'd have to bring that through the board, or we would have to bring that to the board for review and consideration. But we did have coordination meetings with MWRD. They're perhaps the biggest permitting agency left on this project, and we don't anticipate them having significant comments or changes required. The actual stormwater detention that we are requiring as a village is actually a village requirement. It's not even required by their ordinance. We require it knowing the situation we have out there in an effort to maximize the amount of water we can store on site.
Trustee, as part of the approval, if the village board wants to be informed of any changes to the drainage system out there, whether they approved it administratively or not, you can certainly, if the board's, all in agreement with that, that can be the direction to staff, and we can honor that for sure.
I think that'd be a good idea. At least speaking for myself, there was a lot of interest in this project, naturally. I think anything like that should be brought to the board, even if it's small, even just to notify us.
Can we look at process for that, kind of what we can put in
Sure.
place? And then just update the board as to what the process will be for the updates?
Yes,
If it comes to
we'll
the
put
committee
something
or-
together, sure.
Okay, great.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay, that concludes my report for tonight.
All right, thank you. All right, person with the very long list, Public Works and Water Committee report.
You guys will be sorry.
Come on, you got a lot of good stuff here.
All right, the first item is the Springdale Drainage Improvement Project. So the Public Works recommends accepting the bid from Performance Construction Engineering not to exceed $5,188,313. This is the lowest of the 4 bids we received. Again, this is funded $1 million from the grant from the MWRD, and the rest is divided between the Stormwater Fund and the roadway funds. The next 2 items I will save to read next, the next meeting. It's the National Public Works Proclamation and National Drinking Water Week Proclamation, both May 18th through May 24th. So you'll have to tune into that meeting to hear those. The next item is the 2025 Touch Truck Flyer. May 17th from 9 to 12 is Touch Truck. That's when kids in the community can come and see all of the large municipal trucks. From 9 to 10 is sensory friendly, so it'll be a little quieter then. The next item is the lead service line replacement Phase 1 construction bid recommendations. Public Works recommends awarding the contract of Phase 1 lead service line replacement to Millennium Contracting not to exceed $935,603. Again, this is the lowest bidder. We budgeted $785,000, and we voted in our ordinance last month to request that from a loan. And this is because the bid came in higher, we're going to have to request more money, and we're going to do that later tonight as well if everyone agrees. The next item is the 2025 fire hydrant sandblasting and painting. Public Works recommends awarding the contract of the fire hydrant sandblasting to the lowest bidder of Go Painter, not to exceed $25,875. So the goal with that is to have all the remaining hydrants painted in the next 3 years. The next is the contract with Water Resources for water meter installation. Public Works recommends waiving the bidding process and accepting the contract with Water Resources for the purchase of water meters and accessories not to exceed $50,000. So we had the water meter replacement program last year, and the contract has run out. So there's about 90 meters that need to be replaced yet, which it's 97% complete. So this will just continue that same contract to finish those last 90 meters. The next item is an engineering proposal for well 3 and 4 maintenance and well number 1 abandonment. So Public Works recommends approving the proposal from Baxter and Woodman Consulting not to exceed $10,000. So well number 1 is the shallow well. It's not connected to the reverse osmosis plant. And what they're looking at is it worth it to maintain this well or just abandon it? They just recognize the water that is being pumped out of there is they're getting less water, less production, and that might be a sign that more work needs to be done. It might be easier just to abandon the well than keep it going. And we have the other deep wells, so we don't really need it. And for well 3 and 4, the village completes maintenance every 8 to 10 years, and so this is just the maintenance cycle for that. The Zybel fire hydrant purchase. Public Works recommends the purchase of 15 Mueller fire hydrants for $80,925 from Zybel Water Service Products. We use Mueller fire hydrants within the village. They're very durable and reliable, and if we maintain the same hydrants, everything will be easier to maintain. So if one gets switched out, it'll be easy to do. The pricing is set by the manufacturer, so that doesn't change prices, and we're recommending using Zybel since the village has had a contract and used them for the past 20 years, and it would be no change in price if we went to someone else. The next item is the Forest Hills Sidewalk Improvement, east side of Grand Avenue. Public Works recommends approving the contract with Davis Concrete Construction Company not to exceed $195,909. They were the lowest bidder. We have a grant for $190,000 of this, but we have to fund the project and get it complete, and then we ask for the money back. And this is, we have budgeted $259,600 for this. The next item is the same Forest Hills sidewalk improvements, the east side of Grand. Public Works recommends using V3 for an amount not to exceed $33,514.42 for Phase 3 engineering. That's when they have the engineers on the job site making sure everything is going as planned. And of that, the budget was $40,000. The next two items are about asphalt resurfacing. So the first one is Public Works is recommending approving BLR 09110, which authorizes motor fuel tax money for the 2025 asphalt resurfacing. And then for the resurfacing itself, which is resurfacing 45th Street from Wolf to Gilbert and just village-wide skip patching like we did last year. We received 7 bids, but we don't have the lowest bidder yet. They're still tabulating, so hopefully we'll bring that to the next meeting for April 28th. Lead service line replacement, authorizing the village to borrow funds. This is something we kind of previously discussed. The lowest bid came in over budget or what we planned, and so Public Works was recommending revising the ordinance that will allow the village to borrow additional funds to replace the 42 lead service lines in an amount not to exceed $1,100,381.15, which is up from $1,023,000. The next item is Berry Landscaping proposal. Public Works recommends approving the proposal from Berry Landscaping to complete the seat wall and the landscaping at Burlington and Grand in an amount not to exceed $22,373.24. Last year, we approved the original design in August of 2024, but this new design will save the village $10,000. And the last item is the Woodland Avenue Reconstruction Project, Amendment Number 1, Professional Services with H.R. Green for Design Engineering Services. Public Works recommends Amendment 1 with H.R. Green not to exceed $29,000. In the last roadway referendum, the last little bit of money, they did a lot of engineering for the engineering to redo Woodland Avenue. So what we're looking to do is the engineering included the roadway, new water main, installation of a new separate storm sewers, and the project is 90% complete. And with this $29,000, they would finish up the engineering to at least bring this to bid. And that's all I have. So many questions.
Any questions, comments? If you haven't been to the Touch-A-Truck, I highly recommend it. Anything else? Okay, thank you for all that.
Sure.
And for the details, and then also for some of those items that we'll be considering under old business tonight. Thank you. All right, moving on to Properties and Rec Committee report. Trustee Avakian.
Thank you. First up, we're replacing the fence in between Public Works and the Rec Center, and we are considering, or I would like everyone to consider a recommendation to approve the award for the Public Works and Recreation Fence Replacement Project. Alternative 1, they had 6 bids, this was the lowest bidder. Classic Fence, Inc., for an amount not to exceed $52,334. And then next up, we have some cars that we need to surplus, some vehicles. So we are considering a recommendation to declare these vehicles surplus and bring forth to the village board for a final approval. There is a 2020 Lexus squad car, there's a 2011 Ford Taurus, there's a 2012 Chevy Tahoe, there's a 2015 Ford Taurus, and a 2017 Ford Explorer. Most of these have well over 100,000 miles on them and have served us well. Any questions? And next, 2 more. Let's see, is change order number 1 to the contract with NPN Flooring Installation for the Grand Avenue Community Center flooring. We're recommending pending the final cost of the additional scope of work they had to do, a little bit extra for the flooring. Let's see, the amount is not to exceed $50,000. And then the last but not least is the 5150 Woodland Avenue, the right-of-way sale. We are recommending to advance and review the discussion for the sale of the right-of-way located at 5150th Woodland, which has been discussed a couple times.
Anyone have any questions?
It's a lot of vehicles.
Yeah.
It is.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on to public health and safety report.
No report.
Okay, very good. Then we will move on to our next item. Any new business that we have not yet discussed? Manager Bear, anything else?
Nope.
Okay. All right, then we'll move on to old business and consideration of the items that were just mentioned by each of our committees. And Trustee Tyrrell, do you see these?
I'm sorry?
I'm not sure who reads.
I think I'm the first
Yeah,
two.
we're-
Oh, sorry.
we're on.
Okay.
Ordinance number 25-3257, an ordinance authorizing the Village of Western Springs, Cook County to borrow funds from the Public Water Supply Loan Program of the Illinois Environment Protection Agency for the completion of the replacement of 42 residential lead service lines within the Village of Western Springs. I make a motion to approve.
Is there
I'll
a second?
second.
Oh, thank you. And may we have a roll call vote?
Yes, President Rudolph. Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Naraki.
Aye.
Trustee Tyrrell.
Aye.
Trustee Avakian.
Aye.
Trustee Fink.
Aye.
President Rudolph.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. The next item?
The next one is ordinance number 25-3258, an ordinance providing for the issuance of not to exceed $6 million general obligation bonds, alternate revenue source series 2025 of the Village of Western Springs, Cook County, Illinois, for the purpose of paying the costs of improving village stormwater system to alleviate flooding in the village, providing for the levy of a direct annual tax sufficient to pay the principal of and the interest on said bonds, and authorizing the sale of said bonds to the purchaser thereof. I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. And a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Naraki.
Aye.
Trustee Tyrrell.
Aye.
Trustee Avakian.
Aye.
Trustee Fink.
Aye.
President Rudolph.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm guessing now this is
Mhm.
Trustee Naraki?
Ordinance number 25-3259, an ordinance approving a waiver of certain plan development submission requirements and a major amendment to the village-approved final plans of the conditional use permit for a planned development issued for the 29-unit Heritage Crossing Townhome development located at 5600 South Wolf Road property to authorize the use of a revised stormwater drainage plan. I'll have a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, President Rudolph. Trustee Avakian.
Aye.
Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Fink.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Tyrrell.
Aye.
Trustee Naraki.
Nay.
President Rudolph.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Thank you. I think Trustee Tyrrell, you're next.
Yes, resolution number 25-2894, a resolution approving and authorizing an amendment to the employee leasing agreement between the Village of Western Springs and MGT Impact Solutions LLC to retain the full services of a part-time recreation consultant. I'd have a motion to approve that resolution.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. And a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Avakian.
Aye.
Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Fink.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Naraki.
Aye.
Trustee Tyrrell.
Aye.
President Rudolph.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's see, who's the next one?
I'm the next two.
Okay.
Resolution number 25-2895, a resolution approving the waiver of the competitive bidding process in lieu of purchase from an available, experienced, and qualified vendor, and authorizing the approval and execution of a vendor contract dated April 14th, 2025, to be entered into with Berry Landscape Service, Inc. of Lockport, Illinois, for the completion of hardscape and seat wall improvements at Grand Avenue and Burlington Avenue, and authorizing the expenditure of downtown South Tax Increment Finance District funds in an amount not to exceed $22,373.24 to pay for the work. I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
And a roll call vote, please.
Yes, President Rudolph. Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Naraki.
Aye.
Trustee Tyrrell.
Aye.
Trustee Avakian.
Aye.
Trustee Fink.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. And the last one.
And next, resolution number 25-2897, a resolution accepting the low bid and authorizing the execution of a construction contract between the Village of Western Springs and Low Bidder Performance Construction and Engineering LLC of Plano, Illinois, for the construction of the Springdale drainage improvement in Western Springs, Illinois. I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you, and then roll call vote, please.
Yes, President Rudolph. Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Naraki.
Aye.
Trustee Terrell.
Aye.
Trustee Vacan.
Aye.
Trustee Fink.
Aye.
President Rudolph.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on now to our reports. The monthly financial report, please. Trustee Chen?
No report.
Okay, very good. I have just a brief report, which is to thank everyone, all those who came out and voted on April 1st and supported the infrastructure referendum, resulting, as you, I think, all know, in a significant 72% yes vote. Our residents have voiced their support for and an investment in our future. I think we know these bonds are they're gonna fund an estimated 2 additional major infrastructure projects per year, which will be established as part of the annual capital budget, and the engineering for these projects will begin as soon as possible. With our 95% residential community and tax base, it's just been critical for our residents to partner in this continued expectations of Western Springs as a great place to live and to raise a family. The village, I'm confident, will use these funds wisely to meet those expectations. Residents have shown a commitment to our safety, to the growth, and the future progress for everyone who lives and visits here in Western Springs. I really couldn't be more thankful for the support. And I also want to thank, just very extensively, Village Manager Bear, Deputy Manager Bernacki, all of the directors, Super, Koza, Masindona, Selman Chychuk for the communications, Daisy Chavez, and all the others who supported all of the education efforts, who attended, staffed the open houses, who were at events starting last summer, and have done everything they could to be available to and to help the residents and help the community to understand what this is about and what's needed. And it's really quite a partnership and really quite an impressive result to get the 72%. And it's all the work paid off and the communication. So thank you, Village Manager Bear, and for everyone who played such a role in this. But mostly thank you to the residents for taking the time to understand this and to really to vote for the future. So thank you for that. And I will now turn to Village Manager Bear.
Thank you. I just have a couple of items. On May 7th, the Municipal Services Department will be hosting a tour of the water treatment plant. I know most people have not been in that building, but it is an opportunity to come in. The tour will include an overview of the plant, including the treatment equipment, the lab, and a nice overview of how our village wells work. Details are still being finalized, but we will have information available on the village website later this week. And then finally, in recognition of National Telecommunicators Week, which is being celebrated this week, April 13th through 19th, I'd like to take a few minutes to acknowledge and thank the dedicated staff at the Lyons Township Area Communications Center for their professional service to our community. Emergencies can occur at any time, and when an emergency occurs, the prompt response by police officers, firefighters, paramedics, and public works personnel is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. The safety of responding police officers, firefighters, paramedics, and public works personnel is very dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from the callers to our communications center. LTEC telecommunicators are the first critical contact that those callers have in receiving assistance from Western Springs, LaGrange Park, and Countryside. All of those emergency personnel rely on every one of those telecommunicators. And when answering those calls for service, LTEC telecommunicators exhibit compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their critical work. And for this work, we thank them and celebrate them during National Telecommunicators Week. That's all I have.
Thank you very much for that. That's important to recognize. Thank you. Village Attorney Joseph.
No further reports tonight.
All right, very good. Then do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, I'd have a motion to adjourn tonight's board meeting.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?